Yeah. So what are the global protected and private attributes in Python? This global variables are some public variables that are defined in the global scopes. So to use the variables in the global scopes inside a function. So basically, these were the things which we go with these keywords. So as we go with the protected and private attributes. So these were the attributes which are defined with an underscore called prefix to their identifier. Example, like example, you can go with an underscore SARA or underscore WHICH. It should be underscore. The prefix must be an underscore, so they can still be accessed and modified from outside the class. They are defined in, but responsibility developer should refrain from doing so. So as we go with the private attributes, so these are the attributes which double underscore prefixes to their identifier. Example, underscore which, do, underscore while. So they cannot be accessed or modified from the outside directly. Okay, outside we can't do it, modify it directly. So that's the thing which we go across with global and these parts. So as we go with the next question, what is docstring in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this docstring, this this is a documentation string, or it is a multi-line string used to documentation a specific code segment. So the docstring should describe what the function or method does. Okay, it is a function for this docstring. So as we jump into the next question. How is a memory management is done in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer with Yeah. Now, as we look into this, memory management in Python is handled by the Python Memory Manager. As we all know, this memory allocated by the manager is in the form of private heap space, which is dedicated to a Python. So all Python objects are stored in this heap, and being private, it is inaccessible to the programmer. Yes, it is not accessible to the programmer. Though Python does provide some core API functions to work upon the private heap space, it doesn't do that. Okay, this is how a memory management is done in Python. So as we jump into the next question, what are generators in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now as we look into this, these generators are functions that return an iterable collection of items, one at a time. So in a set manner, generators in generally they can use to create iterators with a different approach. So they employ to use yield keywords rather than return keywords. So as we jump into the next question, How are arguments passed in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now as we look into this, see the arguments can be passed in Python by pass by value and pass by reference. So if we choose a pass by value, basically copies the actual object which is passed, and changing the value of a copy of the object will not change the value of the original object. As we go with the pass of reference, reference to be the actual object which has been passed, and changing the value of the new object will change the value of the original object. Yeah. As we go with the next question, how are indexes in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, in this basically we do have two indexes like positive index and negative index. The positive index will start with zero and end with a number of arrays which we have been taking. Which means if you go in straightforward from starting to ending, then it starts from zero and ends with the length of the array. If you go in the reverse part, it will be starts with -1 and ends with the array length of an array. So that's how this indexes will go workers in Python. So as we jump into the next question, how does interface works in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a next question. Yeah. Now, as we look into this Python interface works. So, at an high level, an interface acts as a blueprint, or it acts as a class. Like classes interface it defines methods, unlike classes. So yeah, abstract classes are used when there is some common feature which has been shared by all the objects as they are. So this interface is a bit compared to the abstract class. So as we jump into the next question, how does inheritance works in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a next question. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, inheritance gives the power to a class to access all attributes and methods of another class. It aids in code reusability and helps a developer to maintain applications without redundant code. So this class inheritance from another class is a child class, or also called as derived class. So the class from which a child class derives the members, which is called as a parent class or superclass. As we all know, child class can inherit all the methods from parent class, whereas parent class cannot inherit all the classes of child class. That's how an identity is. So as we jump into the next question, do we use access specifiers in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this Python does not make use of access specifiers like private, public, protected, etc. However, it does not derive this from any variables. It has the concept of imitating the behavior of variables by making use of a single or a double underscores as prefixes and variable names. So by default, the variable without a prefix underscores are public. So this is how this access specifier works. So as we jump into the next question, is it is that possible to call a parent class without its instance? So if yes, how? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, yes, it is possible if the base class is instanted by some other child classes, or it is a base class, it is a static method. When it is possible, if a base class is instantiated by a child class, then it is possible to call a parent class without its instance. So, okay, as we jump into the next question. In general, how do we create an empty set in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, an empty class does not have any members defined in it. So it is created by using a pass keyword, as we all know. We can create objects for this class outside the class. Outside the class itself, we can create an empty class by using a pass keyword. That's how to create an empty set in Python. So as we jump into the next question. So yeah, as we jump into the next question, differentiate between the new and override modifiers. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, the new modifiers is used to instruct the compiler to use the new implementations and not the base class functions. This override modifiers are used to override a class base class function inside the child class itself. So this is the main difference between them. So as we jump into the next question. why a finalized function is used. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this finalized method is used to freeing up the unmanaged resources and clean up before the garbage collection method is invoked. So it helps in performing memory management tasks. Okay, it basically helps on working on memory management tasks. Explain about pandas. So what is this pandas? As you all know, this is a library which we use in Python. So if anyone knows, if anyone has an idea on that particular library, they can please mention those in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we link into this, pandas, there are open source Python-based libraries used in data manipulation applications. It requires high performances inside these pandas. The name is derived from having a multi-dimensional data which has been developed in 2008 by a developer regarding the data analysis. Pandas are useful in performing five major steps of data analysis: load the data, clean and manipulate it, prepare it, model it, and analyze it. Okay, so these were the steps they have been used. What do you know about the re-indexing in pandas? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this re-indexing is a process of conforming a data frame to a new index with optional filling logic. So if the values are missing in the previous index, then null is placed in that location. So a new object is returned unless a new index is produced that is equivalent to the current one. So the copy value is set to false, then it also be used to changing the indexing of rows and columns of the data frames. So this is how the indexing part is done in pandas. So that's it for the day, guys. We'll meet in the next session. Thanks for joining the meeting. Bye. Have a great day, guys.